This is the history of Lenoir Mills in Lenoir, North Carolina. Thanks to David Culver, Bruce Craig, and Gary Bentley for these photos. Also thanks to Gary and Keith Bentley of Lenoir Building Supply for allowing us to do this video in their building. There are so many original parts of this building still remaining. Hudson Poultry Farms, owned by Vernon Marley, had an office in the Lenoir Mills building, and later Vernon built a new office at his home on the Pine Mountain Road, where Hudson Poultry was located. This video is part one of yet to be determined parts. Lenoir Mills produced many products, and in this video you will see many chutes that distributed these products throughout the building to be packaged for sale. Lenoir Mills also had a poultry farm, location unknown at present. The Grisette Mill later became Lenoir Mills. Today is June 19th, and we're at the old Lenoir Mills, which is now Lenoir Building Supply, on West Avenue, Lenoir, North Carolina. These steps, when I was a child, led all the way to Prospect Street. This is right in front of Lenoir Mills on West Avenue, Lenoir, North Carolina.
We have entered a workshop that was put in here many years ago. Now all of the equipment in here came out of the Bernhardt Siegel Building Supply, which is just across the road, across from the Lenoir High School band building. T.W. Bolick bought this stuff and put it in here. Larkin Bentley, who owned this, who's passed away now, he worked at Bernhardt and Siegel Building Supply and moved over here, and then TW put all of the equipment in. Now, if you will scan over to the right over here, Bill, these are all real old clamps that they used to clamp pieces of cabinet or whatever together. What you're looking at now is a wall that has some real old clamps of all different types that was original to this place. And see, this right here is probably an adjustable wrench from early 1900s. Now right here is some of the original leather belts that was used to run some of this machinery back years ago, and as we'll get to, some of it still is. This is just an old toolbox that's hung up here for many years, and it's got a lot of old tools and things in it. And here's another roll of the old leather that was used in running some of this machinery. This is a bench that's built that's probably, I don't know, 30-40 foot long. It was built by T.W. Bolick, who was a carpenter and contractor. This is an original DeWalt cutoff saw, and this thing is, Lord, it's probably 1900 or after, but it is still original from the old Bernhardt and Siegel place. And as you come down this thing, we've got old dado blades that you can put on the table saw. These things are very old. And then you just got a place that you have scrap lumber. This is an original planer And it's a 12-inch planer, and it came out of the Bernhardt Siegel, was put over here. It has a huge motor to it that it runs off of a belt, and this chute has been replaced, but what it does is it throws the shavings back out this way. And this was a Boyce crane system that you would pull this lever to change different things about it. This you could adjust the cuts right up here, plus the wheel would move the table up and down. But there again, you're looking at something that's part of history. You're looking at an original joiner where you would joint the edge of a piece of lumber. And it's all cast iron. This is from the early 1900s. And the fence has been busted and re-welded and all that stuff many times, but it's called the Woodworkers Tool Works in Chicago, number 66E. And there's probably a date on this thing somewhere, but we won't be able to find it, I don't think. This is a number 2J, but anyway, this thing has many adjustments to it that you can take the fence and lay it down, you can move it back and forth, but look at those great old big cast iron feet that's on this thing. This is a very old table model drill press, and it's got a hood on it up here. You could take the belt and you could move it up or down depending on which pulley you were on as to how fast it would run. It could go from real slow to real fast. The name of it is a Walker Turner Company in Plainville, New Jersey, USA. And it says machine tool woodworker machine. Don't see a date, but this is very, very old. We're looking at a mortise machine that would make holes into a piece of wood for the tenon to go into. And you would put your piece up here. This is a square bit, and you would use this pedal here to move it up and down to get whatever you needed. Now, it is belt driven, and it is very, very old. You can see here that there's the stays in the leather belt. And here they have a piece of wood that keeps the belt a little bit tight. It's kind of an old-timey way of adjusting. And then they have a belt back here driven to the motor, and they have a piece on it to keep the belt from coming off. But it is electric, and back in the old days, it may have been all belt driven and not done by electric. But anyway, this is a very, very desirable old piece of machinery. Okay, now we're looking at another part of machinery that kind of goes in with the mortise machine, and this is called the tenon machine. Now the tenon machine is something that would have made a piece stick out like this, and it would have gone into a mortise part. This right here has huge blades back here that would be running, and you would take your piece of wood and put it in here. This is a piece that would hold it down, and you would run it through there, set it so far over to do the distance that you needed. But this is a very old piece. It's American made. It does say that it is American Woodworking Machinery Company, Montgomery, Pennsylvania, USA. And it does have like an eagle and a ball on it right there. So, and it was belt driven. This is with the old original belts on this thing. And but it has all kinds of adjustments on it. But this is a very, very good old piece of machinery that did come out of the old Bernhardt Siegel building supply. All right, this used to be in working order in here that was right behind the planer, and it's called a drum sander. You would take your sandpaper and stick it in here, go around, and then stick it back in there again, and then you put a metal piece in here that would hold it in, and you could screw it down. The top part is also a piece that is like a drum sander, but you put the piece of metal in, and I can't get this turned, but anyway, you would put the sandpaper in the same as you did here. But this used to be in working order right over behind the planer. And it does have a belt pulley on the bottom of it. This has got felt to make it a little bit soft for the sandpaper. And this is where it was bolted down to a workbench. What you're looking at now is the inside of the office that was for Lenoir Mills, Hudson Poultry, and another company that was in here that was a poultry. And the Marleys are the ones that had the Hudson poultry in here, and then Lenoir Mills was also in this office. And this would have been the original door, but they blocked everything up and just blocked the door off to where you couldn't get in. We do have two original windows that went out that was to this office. The ceiling has been replaced, and there's been a couple of other doors, but we do have an original bathroom right over here that went to this place. This right here, what you're looking at, is a doorway that went to a bathroom for the office people that worked in here. And it does have real old original hinges that was a door that went through here.
Thanks to Martika and William Lake for the use of their music in this video, and also thanks to local musician Mary Elizabeth. I wanted to include this photo of this building right beside Lenoir Mills. This was owned by Whitey Hawkins and was Western Electronics. They did work on two-way radios like used in the fire department and police department. And these, of course, are the original railroad tracks for loading the cars, the box cars. One of many original doors that still remain. And many of the original windows have been boarded up. Some parts of this building have been added on in recent years and are not part of the original Lenoir Mills. These are the remains of the steps that used to go to Prospect Street, right in front of Lenoir Mills. I used these steps many times as a child here in Lenoir, North Carolina, back in the late 40s and 50s. Another view of the old Western Electronics building. Phil Borneman, who was later a deputy, worked here in his younger days. Of course, this is the rear of Lenoir Mills, now Lenoir Building Supply. Judge Beverly Beale took this photo of what used to be Lenoir Mills from Prospect Street. Back in the first days of Lenoir Mills, this would have been an exterior wall before parts were later added onto the building. Now it's an interior wall. These stars are so common in all the old buildings around Lenoir, especially the Bluebell building, which I have done a video of. These stars and metal rods tie the two walls of the building together, and you'll see photos of the rods later on in this video. That appears to be a 3/4 inch to an inch rod. When I say two walls, I mean the front and rear walls. Much of the flooring in this building is still original. There are so many chutes and bins inside this building that control the flow of the flour and other grains, and this lever did the same. It controlled the flow of the grain to be processed or bagged. This handle and the word tank seems to be original back to the early days of Lenoir Mills. Since most of the original chutes in Lenoir Mills were wooden, I would say these metal ducts or chutes were added later. Here you see a chute leading to a bin that is controlled by a lever that lets the grain flow in two different areas. Many places where there were chutes and ducts have been filled in with wood, as you see here. And this is my friend Bruce Craig in front of a stairway that we believe to be original. A photo inside one of the grain bins. So many wooden grain bins. Here's another. This second floor appears to be original and is tin, which is highly unusual. The flow of this bin is controlled by a huge lever, as you see here. The inside of another bin. More holes for chutes in the ceiling. Another grain storage bin. There are many hatches in the floor where chutes used to run. I think there's more patched holes where chutes used to run in this building than there is floor. One of the original windows. I don't believe this walkway is original to Lenoir Mills, but I believe this walkway is. There is an original wooden beam sandwiched between this channel iron, so the channel iron is not original to Lenoir Mills. And this wooden beam was added later. It isn't original either, has a curve in it. These loading ramps with rollers, they belong to Lenoir Building Supply. And here is a loading dock, and of course it wouldn't be original either. Another small wooden chute there throughout this whole building. Most of this chute has been cut off. These old tarps were used by Lenoir Building Supply. Another original window, and the bars are inside. That's a little unusual. Another original stairway. Another one of so many floor hatches. Who knows what artifacts might be found in this hatch in the floor of the old Lenoir mills. The old woodworking clamps mentioned in the first part of this video. Many of these tools you see here go way back. The old belt, the crescent wrench, the clamps. And here's a combination square that's really old. Bruce is holding some of the old drive belt that was held together by a pin, and I'll show you that in a photo later. When you see an old crescent wrench like that, adjustable wrench, with a curved handle, it goes back in the 1900s. We were not sure of this saw's date. I see a patent date on this data plate, 1943, 44, 45. The old planer is previously mentioned. And the old motor for the planer. The old belt-driven mortise machine with a square bit. Here you can see how these old leather belts were put together. Each end had looped staple-like metal staples in them, and the two ends were held together by a rod running down through the staples. And here is a close-up. When I was a child, Lenoir Machine Shop had huge shafts running across the ceiling with huge leather belts coming down to each machine. Of course, the belt was driven by one great big electric motor. Back then, electric motors were so big and so expensive that each machine didn't have its own electric motor. And that's still commonplace in several of these old factories here in Lenoir, North Carolina. This drill press says, "For wood only, no metal." That's very unusual. And this is the Tenon machine for mortise and tenon. These old woodworking machines are built so well they'll last forever. They don't build anything like they used to. And you can see the belt drive on this one. That's very unusual. This goes way back. And you can see how the table on this machine rolls back and forth. This old Tenon machine has a leather belt and was probably once driven by a leather belt, but now it's driven by electric motor with V-belts. Lots of different bits and attachments for really old tools. Some of the bits are new, some really old. This is the drum sander that Bruce was talking about earlier in this video. It can be mounted on a bench and belt driven. Here's another original door with the original hardware. Another bin with the bottom cut off. Looking straight up into this bin. And another view of the same. Here's the old electrical panel. I couldn't get in close to photo this old sink, which is probably original because there was some fragile things in my way. Here are 3 original grain chutes. So many large wooden beams, of course, that are original to this building. This is looking out the back doors, which are original. Historian Bruce Craig in one of the offices. Hallway to the offices. Another office. The office door has been blocked in. The bathroom is to the right, but there's nothing left original in there. One of the original hinges on the bathroom door. Very unique metal weather stripping that was used in the old days. There are several holes in the walls of this building, we guess for ventilation. These rafters and boards are all original. And original brick. These scales are really old, but they work just great. And another grain chute that has been cut off. And part of this chute has the original cloth. In the bottom of another chute from the storage bin above, and it's plugged with something. Another original staircase with original railing that is well worn. I know seeing all these bins gets a little tiring, but they are history. Another original door that isn't being used, of course. This is a fire door, and I'll tell you what I learned from doing the Bluebell building, which has fire doors just like this. This door is wood and covered with metal. And because of the angled track, and you see it's off track here, when there's a fire, a soft metal link in a chain that holds this door back will melt, letting the door close automatically. Bruce found this tool, and it looks like maybe it might have been used to unclog one of the grain chutes or possibly move one of the grain bags around. And here you see several chutes together, and because they manufactured so many products, each chute could have carried a different product to be bagged. And another one of the original windows that has been boarded up. And the same thing here, another window. Looking back at a stairway that we just came up, we're going to go up to the very top of this building now. Being in the very top of this building, you're going to see things that not many people have ever seen. I love to see these old belts and pulleys and gears that were used way back in the day. This is an extremely hot and very dangerous place for an old man to be. Lots of holes in this floor, and it's dark up here. Bruce and I had to use flashlights. This is the flour sifter, and you can see the cloth tubes leading to the wooden ducts that delivered the flour and other products to different areas of the company. This is a motor-powered flour sifter. Now I can only guess how it works. Because it has these cloth tubes to the wood tubes, I would say that this whole unit vibrates. You can see the removable screens to catch the debris from the flour. These screens could probably be removed while the unit was running so the screens could be cleaned. Another side of the sifter, and you can see it has lots of screens. And this is in the very top of the building at Lenoir Mills. Now Bruce and I discovered that these square wooden ducts were used to transport flour, but they were also used to protect the workers from the belts. And that's what I believe these are for here. So many belts and pulleys, I have no idea what that T-handle on the left is for. I don't think this wooden drum that you see here in this photo was used for a belt. I think it was used for a winch. You could put a rope around it and winch something up from the first floor. And that's just a guess. This is a metal covered door in the top of the building. From the looks of the cloth ducts, it looks like flour was fed into the top of this sifter. This wooden duct looks like it has the remains of a drive belt for one of the pulleys. It looks like that lever would shift another gear into the lower gear, but I don't see the other gear. And this is the bottom of the sifter, and you can see the cloth tubes go to wooden ducts that go everywhere. Is there an electric motor inside this drum? What's the drum for? Did a belt ever go around it? Does this have an eccentric cam that will allow it to vibrate the screens? Bruce thought the pipe might be for oil, and he could be right about that. Who knows? I don't guess there's anybody left that can tell us these things. They had a pigeon problem in this building years ago, and it looks like pigeon feces on the steps. It was very dangerous to go down those steps. I have no idea what this curved wooden box is. And here's another box or a bin with a shaft and pulley for a leather belt, but it looks like it has a V-belt pulley at the bottom. So many things will go unanswered about this mill. It was very dark and dangerous up here in the very top of the building. Lots of places in the floor, holes, hatches. You could easily fall through. No guardrails, no nothing. Bruce said he thought this tool was used for the box cars. Maybe it hooked to the hitch where they could pull it or steer it. Who knows? I've never seen anything like it. Now these fire extinguishers are old, but not real old, because I see Dixie tags on them. And Dixie was in business until not too many years ago. This shaft connects to a sprocket inside the bin, which is in this photo right here. So I don't know, it looks like a chain might have gone around that. Just hard to say. And this is the door into one of those big bins. This photo was taken inside of a bin, and the bottom has been cut away because you can see the lower level. We ran across an old plow, and it's in really good shape. Looks like it's almost new. Maybe if we look long enough and hard enough, we'll find the horse that goes with it. This is one of the concrete support piers in the basement. These rods tie the walls together. There's a star on each end of them. They can be tightened. And as you see here, that rod goes through the wall to the star on the outside of the building. Another old support pier, and it looks like a rebar cutter on top of it, just a guess. We don't know what these holes in the walls were used for. These old wooden beams are in great shape. There is about a 2.5 foot square recess in this basement floor. I don't know if a sump pump was used there at one time, but it's the lowest point of the floor. And we don't know what this cast iron pipe was used for either. Another pier that was used to support something at one time. And this was what was written on that pier when the pier was poured. WVW, September 1944. And this was written on the other side. It looks like FAL. Great columns in this basement. I just wonder why termites never do attack these old buildings. These rollers were used to transport the shingles to the roof, but trucks can do that now. Keith Bentley, owner of Lenoir Building Supply. This is Gary's son, Chad. Hi, Chad. Mr. Larkin Bentley's photo. And this is Gary Bentley, owner of Lenoir Building Supply. As I continue to do more research on this project, hopefully there will be more parts to this. Maybe a video about the history of Lenoir Building Supply. Please support our Caldwell Heritage Museum, 112 Vaden Street, Lenoir, North Carolina, 28645. We appreciate your support.